The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right. So.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
For an increase in federal funds for a subgrant. This was fought for in committee to leave this out because it was found that this grant was going to some bookmobiles that were handing out inappropriate material to the children. We also, there was a request for 2.5 million that was cut back to 1.231 million. And once again, it's in statute that these funds are to go to rural communities, underserved populations such as elderly, veterans, people with disabilities, people with low levels of literacy, and recently released incarcerated individuals. It's part of the Digital Access for All Idahoans plan. The big thing that I want to point out with this legislation is we have included intent language, and it's clear that the language in this budget, the first one specifies no state money to be used for DEI and requires that each library that receives state appropriated funds to report any expenditures related to DEI. And the next language that we put in this budget was for a member of the commission to confirm through affidavit that libraries are in compliance with sections 18, 15, 17B, which is the Children's School and Library Protection Act. So with that, I will stand for any questions and I ask for your green light.
You've heard the motion. Further debate on the motion. The gentleman 12.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate the work that was done on this by the good lady from District 4, making sure that we are pushing back towards the libraries and saying you're going to uphold the Children's and Library Protection Act is a really, really big deal. I'm proud of the work that we did in this body, and that we have intent language in this bill to make sure that they're upholding that is a big deal to me, and it should be a big deal to this body because of the work that we've done there. Additionally, the work that we're working on with DEI, making sure that they're pushing back on that as well. So thank you. Good job on this bill. I'll be a green light.
Further debate on the motion. Gentleman from 11.
debate the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Someone has the floor.
Thank you. So again, appreciate the work that the good lady from District 4 put into this bill. I would argue, though, that the federal funding, though I do get it's in a one-time appropriation, we should use extra care not to include any federal funds in ongoing enhancements, just considering the fact that our national debt is up to $36.6 trillion. So I'm going to be a no vote on this bill.
For the debate on the motion, good gentleman 13.
Would the gentleman or the good lady from 4 yield to a question?
Good lady 4 yield.
Good lady yields.
Lady yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And good lady, you mentioned that there had been an issue with book mobiles or mobile book libraries not in compliance with House Bill 710. I want to know what's going to be done, and I can assure my constituents that we're not going to have something like that happen again. So what have you put in this bill that can give me assurances that kids aren't going to be exposed to obscene material with regards to mobile libraries?
Lady 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentleman from 13. Well, we're hoping that intent language that we put in there, that they must comply with the Children's School and Library Protection Act, will do the work, but we're also using the power of the purse and removing that $40,000. We're hoping that that sends a signal that we're serious about making sure that the laws of Idaho are followed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, good lady.
For the debate on the motion. Hearing none, would the good lady from 4 care to close the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to reiterate that these are Idaho statutes that we're funding. If we don't want to fund them, then change the statute.
Big lady debate's closed. Question is, shall Senate Bill 1196 pass the House? Clerk will mark the sheet. Members will cast their votes.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Idaho Signal here as we watch the vote on Senate Bill 1196. You heard the debate there on this bill.
Has every member
like
voted?
It's going to pass and lock it in. Looks like Wendy Horman is not in the House this morning. She's the lone absent vote there, but this bill passes 48-21. Okay. Well, we'll keep tabs on the House and the Senate today, as we always do. It's good to see everybody here, or I'm glad you can see me today and hear me as well. Matt Edwards here and Idaho Signal. It's the first day of April, April 1st, 2025, otherwise known as April Fool's Day. And we're not going to let that unofficial holiday pass us by here. So no pranks, though. No pranks coming out of here. You can be sure of that. But we will touch upon some foolish things we think we've been seeing over the past, even just the past week or so. Yesterday, if you were with us yesterday, you know that all eyes were on the Senate as we were anticipating, hopefully, that they would take up the veto, the veto override vote of Senate Bill 1023, the Idaho Medical Freedom Act, which was vetoed by Governor Little on Saturday. As a reminder, the governor's veto on that bill had to do with, in his explanation for the veto, had to do with the fact that he thought that the bill prevented teachers, from sending, teachers and staff from sending sick kids home. Or and some have extended that to say that can a business not tell someone to leave the store if they suspect them of having a disease or being sick or something, or sending an employee home? That's not in the bill. This bill is all about medical interventions. It's about forcing people to undergo a medical procedure or a medical intervention in order to participate in whatever it is they want to participate in. So we're going to get into all of that because there was two bills yesterday that were presented. There was a bill yesterday that was presented in the Senate from Senator Foreman that sought to address Governor Little's concern. It also added in something that some of us didn't notice right away, but was interesting. So we're going to compare that bill that came out yesterday with Senator Foreman to a bill that was presented this morning in House State Affairs from Representative Josh Tanner. Josh Tanner presented a bill to address the governor's concern, and basically what it did is refer to a section of code that already exists. Representative Rob Beiswinger was on yesterday, and when he was reacting to Governor Little's veto, He pointed out that the governor's concern is already addressed in statute, Title 33, 512, 33-512. That's Chapter 5 of Title 33, which is the education title. That specifically says that if a child is sick, and I'm using layman's terms here, but if the child is sick, a student is sick, they can be sent home. But this bill is all about medical interventions, and there's a lot of folks that just don't get they don't understand the difference between sending someone home because they're sick and denying them entry because they undergo a medical procedure or a medical intervention. So we'll get into that. One of the things that was interesting in this morning, though, was, I don't know if you saw it. It kind of made national news. Was it Mississippi? I think it was. Maybe it was another state. I'm sorry. Maybe you guys know. But there was a state out there that decided to make ivermectin over the counter. Right now, ivermectin is only available for, the human consumption. Ivermectin is only available through a prescription. And so there was a state in, it was North Carolina. Thank you, producers. North Carolina that passed a bill that made ivermectin available over the counter, so you could just go in and purchase it. This got a lot of people excited that happened, and so in the midst of all of this medical freedom talk, Senator Tammy Nichols showed up and presented this bill. Check it out.
Basically, what this does is this allows for ivermectin to be able to be sold over the counter without a prescription. Just to give you a little bit of information about this, is that it is been touted as a very safe and effective antiparasitic medication. It won the Nobel Prize in 2015, and it was approved by the FDA in 1987. It's been safely used for over 40 years, and it has become one of the most essential and trusted medicines worldwide. It has over 4 billion doses administered. In just about every other country, you can walk into a pharmacy and pick up this medication. In most other countries, it's available. Right now, there are 13 states that are looking at passing this for an over-the-counter. Arkansas actually just signed theirs into law just last week, and this medication has been included on the natural list of essential medicines due to its critical role in treating all sorts of different things. And there's more information coming out all the time on how useful this is. There is no single definitive number of any overdose cases worldwide, despite its widespread use for decades. And this bill basically is affirming that Idahoans have the freedom to access safe and effective treatments without unnecessary regulatory barriers.
Okay, very good. So yes, ivermectin, the bill passed in Arkansas, but it's making its way through North Carolina and several other states there. So this is great. I don't know if they'll have time to make it through the normal process here, but by golly, we'll give it a shot here, as we know that the legislature is gearing up. They hope they get out of here by Friday. So we'll see if this can happen. But the good thing is about these bills, some of these bills being introduced late, is that they're on record. We can see the bill, we can read the bill, and then we can champion them again throughout the rest of the year and see if they come in and scrutinize them, get all eyes on them, and then see if we can take them up in the next session. So that was good news on the Medical Freedom Act. It's fascinating because that's the most criminal thing, I think, in my opinion, about the pandemic, was the silencing of the voices that were out there saying, hey, there is treatment. If you come down with this virus, there is treatment out there. You don't have to just rely on wait. Remember, we had to wait for a vaccine, wait for this treatment. There was, in the summer and in the late fall and into the winter of 2020, it was all about just waiting for the vaccine, and they wouldn't have been able to do early authorization of it if there was actual treatment on the market, and so they kept suppressing. They kept suppressing all of the messaging out there that there was early treatment, that if you started to feel like you were coming down with something and you started getting the symptoms, the early symptoms, that you could take ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine or even over-the-counter stuff like quercetin and zinc and magnesium and all the different protocols that were being shared out there. And then they were being suppressed, and they were being told that there was fake news and that would harm you and that it showed the science wasn't there, and it was completely bunk, absolutely bunk. And that is criminal, because how many people ended up developing long COVID or ended up dying because they weren't allowed or they were shamed into even considering early treatment. That's the real crime here. That's the real crime here. And if anything that I think through COVID that we know of at least at the very least, especially the crime in the media, and that the pharmaceutical companies were in control of the messaging there. So this is a great bill. I really hope we get it. Okay. So that'll go through. That got printed, I believe, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. But let's get into what happened yesterday. The Senate did not take up the vote. They were in caucus. They went at ease while we were on the air. They remained there throughout the day, and they were in caucus for a long time. And many were probably considering what were they doing? Were they trying to figure out if the override of the veto could happen? Well, it turns out one of the things that they were doing was coming up with a new bill. So Dan Foreman showed up at committee with a new bill that sought to address the governor's concern, and we have that clip.
I'm here to present RS 32800. In another life, this bill was a Senate bill, 1023. It's been rewritten with a few changes, so I won't go through the entire bill at length because it's been through the entire legislative process and you're probably familiar with it. That Senate bill was recently vetoed, so I reached out to the gentleman on the second floor, and we've had some lengthy discussions with his staff, and we've incorporated some of the changes, or yes, all of the changes that the governor wanted to see. And it is in this RS 32800 on page 1, and I'll just hit the changes to the parent bill in order to save time here. Under 73-502, paragraph 1, we separated out daycare facilities, private sector daycare facilities, from the definition of business entities. Those daycare facilities have protection with respect to vaccines and opting out under Idaho Code 39-1118. So we didn't lose any protection there. We just decided at the governor's request to break it out from the definition of business entity. On page 2, subparagraph 3, the definition of medical intervention was tweaked just a little bit by adding the words medical in front of procedure and medical in front of action. No real substantive change there. It's just a little bit of clarification, actually. On page 3, subparagraph 4, where it talks about schools operating in the state shall not mandate a medical intervention, we added some references to Idaho Code, specifically the Idaho Parental Rights Act, which is Code 32-1010 through 32-1015, and then applicable sections of code that deal with the vaccine policy in the schools. So we're not changing anything. We just put that in there for reassurance and clarification. Down to subparagraph 9, same page. Struck the word employers and changed it to business entity, again, just for clarification, a distinction between employees versus people who may come in as patrons to a business. And that is the list of applicable changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions. My ask is that we print this RS.
Thank you. Chairman Foreman, any questions? I don't see any. Senator, thank you. We'll let you come back up. Senators, we have RS 32800 before the committee.
Very good. That bill did end up getting printed, and so we'll see if it goes throughout the process here. So you'll notice, though, that he said that he had a conversation with the governor, and even though in the governor's letter, the governor only talked about being able to send a sick child home from school if a teacher or the administration felt the need to. But Senator Foreman in there also mentioned something about daycares and excluding daycare from the definition of a business entity within this bill. And he said that that also came at the request of the governor. But of course, that wasn't in the governor's letter on the reason why he vetoed it. Giving them the benefit of the doubt that they knew they were going to have this conversation anyway, it sounded to me that Senator Foreman was okay with not excluding daycares from mandating medical intervention, but the fact that they're in another part of the statute that vaccines and such are dealt with, vaccinations within the daycare system is dealt with elsewhere. And so rather than touch that part of code, let's just exclude it from here so that this bill remains the same. I haven't looked at that other part of code. There's other people obviously that are highly focused on all this stuff. So to me, it sounds like they're still trying to figure this out. Regardless of that, Representative Josh Tanner was in the House State Affairs this morning with a bill that only addressed what was in the veto letter. It didn't talk about daycare. It didn't talk about anything of that nature. It just said, look, we are going to talk about Title 33, Chapter 5, that deals with being able to send children home. So let's look at what Representative Josh Tanner mentioned this morning, or presented this morning in the House State Affairs Committee with his new version of the Idaho Medical Freedom Act.
Before you is RS 32793. This deals the exact same bill that was actually done, Senate Bill 1023 as amended, that was passed both bodies and the governor had vetoed. Going back to the concerns that the governor had stated on this, we just made sure that we pointed out the correct language for him. And this actually dealt with his concern was being able to send sick kids home. So the amendment that was actually done from Senate Bill 1023 was just adding in that nothing shall supersede the provisions in Title 33, Chapter 5. And if you really wanted to dig into it, it's I think it's 512, and it's Section 7. And I'll just read it for the committee so that there's no concerns. To exclude from school pupils with contagious and infectious diseases who are diagnosed or suspected of having contagious or infectious diseases, or those who are not immune and have been exposed to an infectious or contagious disease, and to close schools if the board deems that condition warrant such closure based on the consultant with the district's health department, public health districts in which the school district is located. So we just made sure that we addressed the governor's concerns within this. We pointed to the area that kind of gave the authority already for that. But besides that, there was nothing else actually changed or amended to the Senate bill.
Okay, so there you have it. So those are the two different bills. So let's bring them up. Let's bring up the Senate bill one first. So Senate bill, this is the new Idaho Medical Freedom Act. And this is Senate Bill 1210. And you can see right here, right at the top under definitions. Now, let me just back up here real quick, just to get you up to speed. Whenever there's a bill being written, and this doesn't happen all the time, but oftentimes you will have a page that talks about definitions, right? Because it's going to use the term business entity. It's going to use the term foreign jurisdiction or medical intervention or school and that sort of thing. So when it uses certain words, we want to go back to the definition so we know exactly what they're talking about. So here is here's what they want to change in this specific chapter, what a definition is, or what a business entity is. And as you can see here, it says it means any person or group of persons performing or engaging in an activity, enterprise, profession, or occupation for gain, benefit, advantage, or livelihood, whether for profit or nonprofit. Except, now here would be the new language in this bill only, right? The business entity would not include daycare, daycare center, daycare facility, a family daycare home, or a group daycare facility as defined in section 391102 of Idaho Code. So that is the difference there when it comes to daycare. And this is because later on in the bill, when you get down to section 4, which is it says here that this is what is going to be amended is in section 4. And you can see here that it says on line 32, number 1, a business entity doing business in the state of Idaho shall not refuse to provide service and so forth. And then it goes through all the stuff that we've been talking about, a medical intervention. So because daycare was made the exception in this bill, this bill does not apply to daycares. But Senator Foreman has said, well, when it comes to vaccinations and everything else, daycare has its own language. And so if the daycares can't necessarily look to this bill and say, oh, we can do whatever we want, because they're still beholden to the rules that are elsewhere. Whether or not those rules are strict enough or allow you the freedom enough, I don't have that right now. That's not what's up for debate right now in terms of those rules. So it very well may be that this thing needs to be applied to daycares as well. I mean, those are the youngest of the youngest. Those are the kids that are those are precious gems, right? So, but I'm just here to tell you exactly what this bill does. Okay, so that's what it does. The other thing that this bill does is what Representative Josh Tanner's bill does, which is down in the next page 3. When it comes to schools. And it says here that a school operating in the state shall not mandate a medical intervention for any person to attend school, to enter campus or the school building, or to be employed by the school. Now, this is subject to the requirements of the Idaho Parental Rights Act, and it quotes some sections. It's also subject to Idaho Code, and it quotes some other sections. And it's also subject to, specifically, we want to point out, section 33-512, even paragraph 7, it says right there, which specifically points out that schools can send children home if they suspect they have lice, or if they're sick and coughing, or if they're doing all the various things that kids do when they go to school. I mean, every kid, that's where everybody gets sick. That's where you build up your immune system. You go to school, you play with other kids, right? Anyway, but that's the part of here that this bill is seeking to do, which is say, hey, you can't mandate any other thing, but of course you can still send your child home because that's already in code. Okay, we beat that one to death. Let's go to this new bill that came out this morning. This is House Bill 472, Josh Tanner. This is the exact same language. It's the exact same bill. And when we go down to, is it going to be page 3 again? Yep, it's going to be page 3. This one is very, very specific. A school operating in the state shall not mandate a medical intervention, yada, yada, yada. All the way until it says that nothing in this section shall supersede the authority of a school district or the board of trustees of a school district as provided for in chapter 5, title 33. And that's the whole chapter. So rather than point out, specific elements within that entire chapter, it's just the whole chapter. Like you still have to abide by that chapter, which should be obvious because nothing in this bill says we were going to modify that chapter. So when something's on the books, until it's modified, it's on the books. I mean, that's the law, right? But you got to spell it out, apparently. So those are the two bills, one in the House side, one in the Senate. However, there is still the ability to override the veto because you don't even need any of this stuff because all that other stuff is already in statute. I mean, when you're writing bills that have to refer to another part of the statute, Like, do you have to refer to everything, as Rob Beiswinger referenced yesterday? Like, do we have to say, do every bill that we write, do we have to tell you what it doesn't affect? Okay. No, of course not. We're just saying this is what the government can't do. Okay. Any government entity can't do. Right. Okay. So those are the two different bills. And that's where we're at. The unfortunate thing, folks, did I tell you what the other thing we can still do, though, is still to try and override the veto. That's where I was going. Like, we still can try and override the veto. So we've had the numbers scrolling down below of the senators that you can contact to see if they can vote the other way. I don't know if they're going to take up this other vote or if they're going to try and get these other bills through. Maybe they'll just try and do it all at once. But everything is still on the table because nothing has happened yet. The only thing that has happened is that Governor Little vetoed the bill. That's for certain. That's for certain. This Medical Freedom Act is dead in the water. So wherever you think what you need to do to get this thing over the hump, you've got two different bills and you still got the veto override. So you got three options. Pick all three and go, or pick one, pick your horse and try to get that one over the hump. I think any one of those three is what we need. It's a great start. It's what we need. So pick any one of those three options and go with it, or pick all of them. All right. We're going to get into some more of the ridiculous, foolish arguments because now that these bills have to go through the process, we have to hear these ridiculous arguments against it. And we're going to get into that next, right after this.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
The dictionary defines a pledge as something that you give as a sign that you'll keep a promise. As Idahoans, that's what we're looking for in our elected leaders. A sign that they'll keep their word. Talk is cheap, and so are political promises, hidden agendas, and special interests. This is why we created the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge, affirming the values Idahoans have been living by for over 100 years, inspired by the only two documents everyone has agreed to live by. So when an Idaho legislator signs our pledge, inviting voters to publicly hold them accountable, that's what we call political integrity. The pledge restores trust and honesty between voters and their legislators. It means protecting our shared values and ensuring your voice is heard in Boise. And that is priceless. Thank your legislator for having the political courage to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge. And if they haven't, it's time to ask why.
All right, folks, welcome back here. The pledge, y'all, the pledge. We got to get more pledge signers on board. We got to get more pledge signers on board, folks. That's the way we win. That's how we keep winning. This has been a massive session. The amount of conservative bills that have come through that lower your taxes, that protect the rights of women, and that if we can get this thing over the hump, this is going to be huge. I mean, there's been so many great wins. I can't wait to go over, sit down and just kind of decompress and look at everything that's been winning. And I know there's a lot of great fights that are still happening out there, and some losses, and we need to cut more here, and we need to slow growth here. But overall, we're headed in the right direction. And the way we keep that momentum going is to get more conservatives on board, sign the pledge, and find some more pledge signers who are willing to run as well. So more on that another time. But let's get into this. Let's get into this hearing this morning with Representative Tanner in the House State Affairs Committee when it comes to this Idaho Medical Freedom Act. Because even though this bill made it all the way through, you're still going to have the people that just can't seem to just accept it. They just can't seem to understand what the arguments about this bill are about. And they talk past you or they're I don't even know what they're paying attention to. Exhibit number 1. Let's just get into it right away. Exhibit number 1. Representative Stephanie Mickelson, our fool of the day. It's April Fool's Day. Representative Stephanie Mickelson questioning. No. Let's start with Representative Achilles. Do we want to start with that? Let's start with Representative Achilles. We'll get to Mickelson in a second. Let's tease you. Let's tease you up here. Representative Achilles, the Democrat out of Boise. Let's watch this exchange with him and Representative Tanner.
So, Representative Tanner, let me just go through a scenario here, and you can tell me if I'm misreading this or not. So I'm an employer. I got 500 people in my business, and I'm paying for everybody's health care. And obesity is a disease, and I want to incent people to lose weight so they live healthier lives and their health care costs are less. So that would be, if I'm looking at page 2, line 10, that would be a prevention. That would fall under a medical intervention definition. And then if I go to page 3, line 26, I am now a business entity who is offering ongoing compensation or a benefit to an employee based on whether the employee has or has not or used a medical intervention. So am I misreading this thing?
Representative Tanner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, so I guess we'll use the scenario then, because this actually was an actual scenario that happened to me. My wife actually bought me a treadmill. I don't know if it was for her actually telling me she needed for me to be more healthy or not, but she bought the treadmill all the same and tried to get me to use it. I actually do not like treadmills. I don't like running in place, and so I never used the treadmill. So then she turned around and bought me a bike thinking that was actually going to help, and I would love to go ride she bought me a stationary bike, and I decided I don't like stationary bikes. I don't want to just ride in place. So, I went and bought myself a mountain bike. But in that sense, she tries to buy the healthy foods for me. Doesn't mean I can still go out and buy whatever food I want and eat the foods. So in a sense, you can try to put whatever medical intervention you want, in a sense, if you're going to try to offer gym memberships. I personally do that to my employees. A lot of them use it. Some of them don't. It is a thing you can try to encourage, but you cannot force.
Follow-up?
Well, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, Representative Tanner, my scenario is simply that I'm an employer offering an incentive to my employees to do something that would lessen the likelihood of a disease, prevent a disease. So the programs that we're talking about here, in my reading of this bill, all of that would be prohibited, which I've got a bunch of issues with. There's no public value in doing that, number one. And number two, I'm an employer. I can do what, I need to do for my business. This is telling me as an employer what I can and can't do.
Follow-up or response?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, just on the follow-up response. Again, you can offer whatever additional services, and there's nothing in state law that says you have to give somebody a policy that includes gym memberships or access to certain aspects of things. If that's your will and your goodness that you want to try to offer, that's great. But there's nothing currently that you could actually force any employee to actually do. This is the same thing we run into within health and welfare. We could actually address a lot of things within Medicaid if we wanted to, if we could actually direct them to do that. That is not our role as a state, and luckily, we've recognized that. We can encourage, but that's it.
I don't know where these people get these arguments. So if I buy health care for my employees and I want them to live a healthy lifestyle, and he even said I offer these things to my employees. Like, yes, you can offer these things to your employees, but you're not forcing them to do it, right? Like, that's the whole point. It's about forcing. It's about mandating. It's about saying you must do this now or you will not partake. Right? I like, they're reading into this something that is just completely not there because they have no arguments, because they know that it's right. That's what I've come down to. And then just like right on cue here is Representative Stephanie Mickelson, who has her own problems. It's so funny I think she wants everybody to quit forgetting that she's been caught harboring an criminal illegal alien, a violent, drug-addicted criminal illegal alien on her farm. I think she wants everybody to forget about that ICE just raided her farm. But we're not going to forget about that because we've got more on that later. That being said, here she is, all high and mighty, again, with like completely baseless arguments that have nothing to do with this bill. Watch this first exchange.
Good Representative Tanner and Chairman Crane. I guess if you could describe to us how this works for a business if somebody had an active case of measles or lice, where their rights as a business to refuse service come into play here in this bill.
Representative Tanner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative. This deals with the medical intervention. So you cannot medically intervene. That is the only thing that this actually bill is addressing and doing. I know everybody keeps trying to going down rabbit holes in a lot of different areas within this, but this just allows so you don't, those businesses cannot direct medical intervention in that aspect. It doesn't say they cannot not have that person come to the business. It doesn't say anything in a sense like that at all. What it does is it does say that they cannot medically intervene. They cannot say, hey, we are going to require you to get a COVID vaccine. We are going to require you to do certain aspects of things. So.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. Okay, then, Mr. Tanner, can you explain to me why on page 2, lines 29 through about 32 here, it says a business entity doing business in the state of Idaho shall not refuse to provide any service, product, admission to a venue, or transportation to a person because that person has not received or used a medical intervention. Doesn't that just go against what you just said?
No. Representative Tanner.
Mr. Chairman, good representative. No.
Follow up.
Can you explain to me how reading the plain language of this, that's not what that says? Because it says you can't deny admission.
Representative Tanner.
Good Chairman, Representative. It says, or use a medical intervention. That is the whole thing that you're actually adding to this. Medical intervention is where you're actually addressing that aspect. You cannot medically intervene with them. Again, it comes down to individual rights, not businesses' rights. It comes down to them making a decision for their own aspect. I can't actually, as an individual, force somebody else to actually to get a vaccine. I really believed in vaccines. We'll just go to the aspect of the hypothetical aspect where I actually believe that vaccines are going to be the greatest thing ever. And I go to the good chairman and I said, I don't want to actually come into this committee unless you get a vaccine. Again, it's his decision. It's his right to be able to do that. And that is more what we're addressing within this. I know that everybody keeps trying to drag other aspects of things into it, but that is in the end what this actually deals with. So thank you.
Yeah, perfectly said there. But Mickelson, all she has to do is read the bill, right? Producers, I just threw up a screenshot in here. This is the language. Remember the definitions, right? We talked about definitions that are inside the bill. Here's what a medical intervention means. It's right in the bill. It means a medical procedure, treatment, device, drug injection, medication or medical action taken to diagnose, to prevent, or to cure a disease or alter the health or biological function of a person. That is what a medical intervention is. It doesn't mean you can't just send someone home. It doesn't mean that when someone walks into your place of business and they're, people throw people out of their business when they're like smelly. Like bums off the street. They're like, sir, you're disrupting the flow, the chi of our location because you stink. Can you please leave? Like, of course you can do that. Of course, if they're sick, you can ask them to leave. I don't know if she's just like not bright up here. If she has too many injections of her own. I don't understand. I don't understand these people. I really don't understand it. It's right there. What part of this? I mean, he is absolutely right. You're going down these rabbit holes simply because you don't want to have any, you don't like any of it. You don't want any of it. You want to be able to tell people what to do. That's all that it is. That's all that it is. But that's the medical intervention. It's right there, right in the bill. Right in the bill. There was more back and forth between Tanner and some other folks, but then Mickelson, she had to double down again. Watch this.
Okay, I think I'd like to kind of come back to a thread that Representative Diger was talking about. Having been an employer and having had employees, I have a little bit of experience in this, and there's nothing more frustrating to an employer that is responsible for employees, and an employee gets hurt, and then the employer ends up having to pay a big bill because you have an employee that refuses to go to their appointments, refuses to take their medications, refuses to do all these things, because at the end of the day, the entity that is on the line isn't the person that's exercising their medical freedoms. It's the employer that happened to be at the place of business, that the employee happened to be at the place of business when an event may have taken place. We had an experience where we had a guy that had 2 broken toes. Well, he didn't tell anybody he had diabetes. And then he walked around and he ended up with an ulcerated wound and some things because of it. Those 2 non-displaced fractures cost our business over $300,000. And I totally applaud people wanting to not be vaccinated. If that's their choice, great. But the problem is we have said in this bill, if we allow this to move forward, that they get to have all the medical freedom they want, but then I get to have all the responsibility of the bill and the problems that go with it. And so I have no problem if we talked about medical intervention, meaning they don't have to take something into their body that they don't want to. But when we're saying we can't deny a person access to our business, which is a private property right, a right to be able to deny people access if we feel like it's not safe for whatever reason. We now have said you don't have any rights as a private business on private property. It's my rights are superior to all other rights that are out there. And I think that this bill sets a bad precedence in that perspective, that we take away from businesses' private property rights at the expense of somebody saying, I get to have all the medical freedom I want. So I will not be supporting a motion to move this bill to the House floor.
First of all, on behalf of Idaho Public Television and whoever's directing the camera over there, I don't know why they took the camera off her. Probably because they're getting paid by her or something. I have no idea why. I cannot believe those words came out of her mouth, folks. She's like, how should I put my company and my other employees at risk by allowing another employee to just have medical freedom? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You just put your entire community at risk by keeping an illegal alien, violent criminal arrested. There it is, folks. Sajid Soto, employee of Mickelson Farm for years, folks, for years. We're going to get it. God, we don't have to. We'll get into it in a minute here. We're going to take a quick break and get into that. We got to do a nice, clean segue so we can edit it out and have it out there. But this is what I'm talking about, folks. This legislator is gone rogue. Absolutely rogue. She sits on that dais up there and talks about not wanting to protect your medical rights and your medical freedoms. She reads this bill, doesn't even know what she's voting on. She has a record of sitting in the House and standing up and saying, "Oh, I want to change my vote," when she gets caught voting for an absolute abhorrent bill or against a really good bill. She's gone rogue, folks. She's gone absolutely rogue. And you folks out there in East Idaho need to wake up. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to go through her relationship with Sajid Soto right after this.
And that's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among a world silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together. All right, everybody, welcome back. I'll tell you what Idaho isn't, or what it should not be. It shouldn't be a place where we harbor illegal aliens, okay? Especially criminal illegal aliens. When the news broke from Investigate West, is that the name of that lefty rag? They tried to spin this article as a hit on the person who dropped a tip to ICE and said, "Hey, I know where there are some illegal aliens in Idaho. If you're trying to scoop some up." And there certainly was one when ICE showed up at Mickelson Farms, Representative Stephanie Jo Mickelson's business. And here's the photo. Sajid Soto. Sajid Soto was the one that ICE picked up early this year in the last couple. I don't know when the raid exactly was, but it was recent. And he was picked up, and he had a record already. And I don't know how long he's been working on this farm, but he definitely was working there at least 3 days before news broke in December of 2021, when this was reported in the news out there in East Idaho. An Idaho Falls man arrested, reportedly admitted to choking a woman. An Idaho Falls man was arrested after he reportedly admitted to sheriff deputies that he choked a woman in November. According to the probable cause affidavit, Sajid Soto, 39, attacked the victim after the two had an argument. The victim said Soto pushed her and then put his hands around her neck and choked her. She was unsure how long the choking lasted, and after the incident, Soto reportedly left and drove to Dubois. Soto originally denied that an argument had taken place, and during questioning by the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office, however, he reportedly admitted that there was an argument and that he got angry. He was charged with attempted strangulation, punishable up to 15 years in prison. There was also an enhancement added for domestic battery or assault in the presence of a child, which could have doubled the penalty to 30 years in prison. And then there was a no contact order issued between Soto and the victim. So he choked this woman in front of a child. He choked this woman in front of a child while he was under the employment of Stephanie Jo Mickelson. And then apparently he served time, and it was very short because that was in 2021, and that's only 4 years ago. We're not actually, we just hit 25. That happened in December of 21. So here we are. And here's the report from Investigate West. Investigate West is the one that initially broke this story. And buried at the bottom of the article is this. In November 22, the Mickelson Farms employee, Sajid Soto, had previously been charged with battery and drug possession. According to the Bonneville County Sheriff's Department, he admitted to choking his wife. So it turns out that the woman that he choked was his wife during an argument. And then while being booked in the local jail, officers found a tiny amount of methamphetamine in his wallet. So he's a meth addict too. Or a dealer. Even a migrant with permanent resident status can lose that status as a consequence of domestic violence conviction. So even if you're here legally, folks, you can lose that. Let's do a side by side with me on this, because I'm going to continue to read this. But folks, I want you to understand the facts here. If you are here legally, you can lose your status for this charge of what happened. But let's continue here, right? Sotos had served his jail time and the restraining order had been lifted, and his felony possession conviction, which can cause a temporary agricultural visa to be revoked, had been dismissed after the farm worker completed probation. So he got a sweet deal. After choking his wife in front of a minor, maybe his own children. Now you have, and then here's what Mickelson said. Oh, now you have 3 children that are American citizens that are entitled to Social Security benefits because their dad was supporting them, and he won't be any longer because ICE picked him up on my farm because she continued to employ him even after he went to jail. Folks, would you want someone like that's continuously working for you? Is that who she wants to continually work for her? A violent, illegal alien? But if you don't take a vaccine, she doesn't want you to work on her farm. Maybe that's it, right? Is that why she's so against the Medical Freedom Act? Let's finish out the story here. Works at Mickelson Farms remains on the dad's Facebook page. If you scroll down, his cover photo is from 6 years ago, taken through the rain-flecked windshields of the truck. And it shows a long row of green and gold John Deere tractors and combines lined up on a stretch of farm soil. And it says, listos para sacar papas, ready to pull out potatoes. So he's been working in the potato fields for a long time and working for Miss Mickelson. Somebody who chokes his wife and keeps methamphetamine at the ready. Is this okay, folks? Because there's a lot of folks I hear out in East Idaho that are throwing shade on Miss Mickelson. That violent attack happened while he was working on her farm. He went and served jail time, and then he was welcomed back with open arms. I don't understand why there's not enough outrage out there. You know, you see a bunch of leftists, you know, they travel miles and miles and miles to show up to a Tesla dealership in Meridian to protest what they think is their beef with Elon Musk. But is anyone in East Idaho going to rise up against this? She's putting your community at risk. She continued to employ this person. I'm not breaking new news. All you got to do is read. This isn't conspiracy. All you got to do is read the articles. All you got to do is figure out the timeline. And everybody's out there, oh, she's a victim. She got attacked. Oh my God, they're going after her because they don't like her policies. Well, her policies suck. She still wants to not have this Medical Freedom Act go through. We just went through what she does in the legislature, what her arguments are. Are you kidding me? Come on, folks. We can't all be everywhere at once, right? But we can make noise, and we need to continue to make noise. And if you're a legislature, and if you're in the House of Representatives right now, that's the timeline. Those are the facts. You want this person continuously in your midst? I don't know why she's not brought up on charges. There's got to be some sort of crime here. How can you harbor an illegal criminal alien after you already know who they are? How do you do this? How does it happen? And no one wants to talk about it. The mainstream news is out there talking about how it was Ryan Spoon tipped off the ICE because he doesn't like Stephanie Jo Mickelson. Well, maybe he doesn't like Stephanie Jo Mickelson for the same reason I don't like Stephanie Jo Mickelson, because she hires criminal, wife-beating, drug-addicted, illegal aliens on her farm. She may very well be a nice person. She may very well be just a fantastic dinner guest. She may throw great parties on her ranch. She's probably a great grandmother. She's so loving, but she's got horrible judgment. Horrible judgment. And that's why I don't like her. I don't like her policies. I don't like her judgment. I don't like her decisions. And she does all this, folks. She does all this because she says, well, no one else is going to work here. No one else is going to work here. Well, you're a legislator. Why don't you go into the legislature and run a launch grant program that entices people to work on a farm, to work in agriculture, Idahoans to work in agriculture? Why don't you do that? Remember those they still make them. The U.S. Army will make these, and the Marines, they'll make these videos that show how awesome it is to be a Marine, right? And we love our Marines. We love our military. But holy hell, you're putting your life on the line. You're signing up to die. And if they can make a video, if they can make a commercial that entices people to sign away your life to go die for your country and make it look awesome, I'm sure somebody out there can make working on an agricultural farm awesome. Right? You're feeding America. You're feeding Idaho. I'm sure somebody out there can make an awesome video, a propaganda video that shows how great it is to work on a farm, to get your hands dirty and work in the fields, or to work in the processing center and have camaraderie with your workers and get great benefits from the owners. Don't talk to me about this is talk to me about saying, oh, these are jobs nobody wants to do. Well, if you're a wife-beating, drug-addicted criminal alien, it certainly is a job that you want to do. Will no one call her out who's in a position of power? Where are you, House of Representatives? I remember a couple years ago, a sitting legislator shared a news link. She shared a news link that was an article that supposedly outed and said the name of the victim of a sex crime. And because of that, she was dragged through a tribunal in the House because she shared a link of a news article that named the victim of a sex crime. And you can agree or disagree on whether or not that was the right thing to do, but it happened. And here we have a legislator who knowingly, it made news, folks. It made the news in East Idaho that he was arrested for choking a woman and went to jail. And the Bonneville County Sheriff knew all about it. And then when he got out of jail, he went back to work at Mickelson Farms. He went back to work. Atrocious. There he is. That's the photo. That photo was on his Facebook. Taken 3 days. Taken 3 days before he was arrested in 2021 for choking his wife. Working on the farm. Sajid Soto. Sahid is Spanish, right? The J is silent. All right, folks. Things are not good in East Idaho. Things are not good out there. Someone's got to step up. All right, well, a lot to pay attention to. The veto, we don't know if that's going to happen or not, if they're even going to vote on it, but we'll pay attention to it. We're not going to let off the gas on this Mickelson story. Especially with her performance this morning in the House State Affairs Committee. I mean, you just put two and two together, and it's just you gotta keep up. You gotta pay attention. So we're gonna keep doing that. Here's what you can do. I want to hear your rants. What is your reaction to Representative Mickelson in this whole thing? Call us 208-402-4915. Leave us a voicemail. And tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about anything that you saw today or this week or what's going on. We want to amplify your voice. We're here to amplify your voice and cut through the noise. 208-402-4915. And if you've missed any portion of this, you can go back in the YouTube and the Rumble archive, or you can just listen to it rotating or on a continuous loop. There's always a continuous loop happening over at idahosignal.live. Make sure you bookmark that on your mobile device. Just press it, press play, and hook it up in your car or wherever you're going and listen to the program. Folks, that's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Thank you so much for joining us today, and never let off the gas. A lot of good wins, some bad losses, but and some outrageous things going on that we all need to pay attention to. All right, I don't know what that is on there. That person comments all the time. I don't know what it all is. Anyway, folks, thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
It puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.